As parents, we do our best, but no one really taught us what's happening beneath the surface. The subconscious is always at work, in us and especially in our children. I am Rebecca O'Rourke and welcome you to the Suggestive Parenting Podcast, a space where we can figure it out together through real tools, real awareness, and real life parenting moments. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Suggestive Parenting Podcast. Today, we have an extraordinary guest with us. Sheena Howard is a nurse psychotherapist and the founder of Acceptance Clinic, which is Canada's only full-service mental health clinic staffed and owned exclusively by nurses. So she is going to share her wisdom with us today, and we are so grateful to have you. Welcome, Sheena Howard.
Well, thank you so much, Rebecca. It's such an honor to be here. I'm so excited to be here, and also for your new book that's coming out.
Yes, there's so much exciting coming up for suggestive parenting, and you are one of the first guests that we're having on this podcast. So
Wow, amazing.
I'm really grateful to have you on this journey with us and for you to share the wealth of knowledge that you have professionally and personally with the parents in this community. So tell us a little bit about Acceptance Clinic and what brought you to coming to Acceptance Clinic and creating that for people.
Oh, thanks. Yeah. So Acceptance Clinic wasn't, it was a surprise. It was birthed. It was like a surprise pregnancy.
Nice, nice. And you nurtured it and went with
Yes. Yeah,
it.
yeah. Well, part of my leadership philosophy is that I'm a love-led leader, and part of that means staying vulnerable to what you see happening around you, staying vulnerable in yourself. And I decided to quit my full-time permanent job and go into my own private practice as a nurse psychotherapist after being told that I couldn't do that as a nurse. And
So you're a
yeah,
pioneer.
yeah, some days. Yeah, yeah. Definitely a what do they call those? An outlier, that's for sure. Um, and so eventually I became full, and I, as most nurses do, we hate wait lists, and it's really hard when people start reaching out for care that they can't get seen, and that was really hard for me. So I started to bring on associates or accept new associates who were in line, had the same similar leadership style and desire for the kind of healthcare that we saw that was missing in mental health.
Amazing.
And yeah, so many of our clients get rejected or turned away by traditional systems because they're deemed as too complex, or they don't fit into a certain model, or they're maybe overlooked, not seen, struggling with substance, struggling with identity, struggling with ADHD, all kinds of things. And then if you had anything extra on top of that, people rarely it's difficult to work with folks, apparently. But for nurses, we're used to complex and interesting, curious cases.
Absolutely.
So when I brought on, I had three associates, and the name that I had just didn't feel right. And so I sat with what are, my core values as a leader and what I want to see in healthcare. And it just kept coming back to this idea of accepting everybody as they are and who they are and where they are at and where they're at in their healthcare journey. And that no matter whether we liked what they were doing, approved of it, or thought it was a really good decision, we could still accept that that's where they were at and welcome them into the clinic and into care with us. And it just stuck. It just resonated. And to start, it was acceptance nurse psychotherapy. And then we added in nurse practitioners. And then just in 2025, we changed the name to Acceptance Clinic, to look at the breadth of what we offer. So that's where it came from.
What a beautiful transition and such a thing that the world needs, because mental health right now is, the helpers in our world are overwhelmed as well with the systems kind of failing and people falling through the cracks. So I'm glad that you are catching some of those people that are falling through the cracks, and I thank you.
Yes.
As someone in the
Mhm.
community, I thank you for the work that you do. You're a really special
You.
person. So, yeah, so grateful
That's very
to
kind.
you. And acceptance is a big part of what I'm talking about in suggestive parenting and in the book and the podcasts and the journals. It's really about coming to this place of being in a place of acceptance, which is kind of like a way that your body operates, right? So we're
Mhm.
either in frustration or we're in acceptance. And there's not a
Yes.
whole lot in between.
Yep. There could be neutral, but that would I don't think parenting ever allows me to be neutral. Really,
Mhm.
truly.
Right. And so we
Yes.
find that acceptance is the place that we're all looking to get to, right? It's the place where all of our resources are available to us, where we can really thrive and be patient and honest, and, our frontal lobe and all of our resources are there for us. But when we're in frustration, and you and I are going to get into talking a little bit about the nervous system, but when we're in this frustration, we're not in acceptance and we don't have those resources. Right. So
Absolutely.
right. So to me, what a beautiful name, because that is the goal.
Well, thank you. Yeah, most people feel my understanding of our clients' experience and the people like our associates, everybody feels that acceptance is it's elusive in
Mhm.
healthcare. And when you find it, it's such a gift. And I feel like that in parenting. It's
Mhm.
elusive. And when you find it, it's a gift. You just want to keep staying there.
Well, there are strategies, right? And so, we can talk a little bit today about giving some parents those strategies for them to move out of frustration or self doubt, or any of those things that get in our way, and have, some steps that bring us over what we call the bell curve and into
Mm-hmm.
acceptance, so that that's where we can really connect. And a huge part of the slogans and all that I'm trying to create is connection over perfection, connection
Mm.
first, right?
Yeah.
and
Yes.
and yeah, so we as parents, we need these tools and strategies, because frustration is part of the human experience, is it not?
Mm. Yes. And it doesn't make you a bad parent.
No, it makes you human.
Yes, it makes you human. So that's why our children know we're not raised by wolves. They aren't being
Yeah.
raised by wolves. Yes. Yep.
Yeah, and we watch our kids go through frustration too. And sometimes,
Mhm.
instead of seeing what's happening, we get sucked into the energy or the emotion or the feeling, right? I know I can recall when my kids were babies, and that feeling of them crying, just the sound of it gave me that, like, I got to do something. Right? And
Yes.
so then you move out of this place of being really connected and having all of those resources, and you get sort of sucked into whatever the child's frustrated with, and you match the frustration. So I think that this is a common thing that happens in parenting, and we want to kind of have some strategies about what we do when our nervous system fires off, and
Hmm.
how to get ourselves back over into that really wonderful place of calm and accepting and connection. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yep.
So
It's definitely time that we started talking about parenting in this way, right? To get it out from underneath the rock of this idea of good parents don't get frustrated, or they aren't angry or irritated or any of those
absolutely.
emotions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, my belief in this whole suggestive parenting is founded on the belief that we as human beings are all doing the best we can with what we know and what we have.
Mhm.
And that's that, there's no need to have judgment or shame or guilt as an adult. We need to get rid of those things and start
Mhm.
to really see what we're moving towards instead of what we're running away from.
Love that. Yes. Yep. A
So
hundred
let
percent.
Yeah, so I have a really cool question for you. So many
In.
parents feel like they're constantly reacting instead of responding. So what's happening in the brain and the body from your perspective when we're in that place of fight and flight or frustration or when
Mhm.
we're reacting? Tell us a little bit from your perspective about what's happening.
Sure. So from a scientific perspective, we, we've moved out of our, yes, we've moved out of our frontal cortex and into that amygdala, into that uh, primal brain, if you will, right? And it's into that survival center that the frontal cortex is the place or the seat of where our executive functioning center is, and that's what allows us to moderate our emotions, moderate our behavior, moderate our words. And I remember somebody doing that hand model. Have you ever seen it about the brain?
Show
Ever seen?
us. Show
Yeah,
us,
yeah,
show the
sure, sure,
listeners.
sure. So, if you think about this as the brain stem and this as the amygdala or your primal brain that originated first when we were being developed, and then we close it over. This is where our frontal cortex sits. And if we have anything, any stimulus, and God love my boys, but they gave me tons of stimulus. Right? And it travels up our spinal column and it goes right up into our brain and we literally flip our lid off the off our amygdala, which allows us to make rational thoughts, if you will, and we start operating through our amygdala. And this is where we start to react from fight, flight, freeze, fawn, or fix. I mean, there's all kinds of F's in there. Um, and the important
I can
part
think
is
of a
to,
couple more F's that are in
yeah,
there.
yes. Yeah, I totally can too. And so what we're aiming for is to try to bring this back down. How do we do it? We've got to attend to the stimulus and attend to what's happening in our body so this can happen so that we start functioning from here again rather than through our primal brain.
Absolutely.
So does that make sense? I
Yeah.
mean, yeah,
Yeah,
does that
absolute
help?
sense. Yeah, and then
Hmm.
great for the people that are actually watching this, because you're giving a demonstration that shows your thumb moving into your hand and the rest of the four fingers moving over top of that thumb. So for those
Yes.
people that are listening, she's demonstrating that for us. And
Mhm.
is it not also true that when we're operating from the amygdala, that all of our blood is running out to our extremities to give us this extra power to run away, to
Yep.
have endurance and strength, and because our body is getting ready to either fight or things like that, right? So
Hmm. Hmm.
there's like cortisol and stress hormone and all of these things that are happening when we're in that state. So it's not like a simple little thing, but there can be simple little fixes, can there not?
Yes, there can be simple little fixes and there can be medium fixes and long-term fixes, right?
Okay.
That can help us stay in
Mm-hmm.
this state. So, I mean, for those of you that are listening, you can't see what I'm doing with my hands, but let me just say that it keeps you operating from your frontal cortex. It keeps your executive functioning center online. There's short term, yeah, there's lots of different ways. Yeah.
Cool. So what are some simple ways that first that we can help parents with some of the simple stuff?
Yeah, walk away.
Yeah, good one. See ya.
Yeah.
Okay.
This well the yeah the most simple from my perspective, and it's one that I teach all of my clients right away is heart practice. And as soon as we recognize that something has helped us flip our lid or we're feeling stressed, is we just put our hand on our chest.
Mhm.
And that allows for a central nervous system sense of feeling calm and safe because there isn't necessarily the safety signals when we're feeling activated. So that's one of the first ways. And the other, oh, sorry, go ahead. What were you
That's
going to
okay.
say?
I would just add to that also as your
Hmm.
hand is on your chest that you feel the deep breath that you're taking in. So you actually have this
Yes.
sense of feeling of your hand rise and fall as you breathe, because as we both know, our breath is really linked and correlated to that nervous system. So the deep
Yes.
breath as you hold that space is a beautiful practice to get into for people. Absolutely.
Yeah. And oftentimes, heart practice can allow for you to be able to even sense the breath. Because sometimes, if we are in whatever state we're in, we might be breathing shallow, like more shallow, or we might be holding our breath, and it can take a little bit of time. One of my teachers, Tara Brock, when she talks about doing this, that she was citing studies that showed that keeping your hand on your chest for 30 seconds mimics a hug.
Awesome.
And so I've found that an incredibly powerful tool. And then, of course, breath work is one of the most direct ways to help bring down your nervous system. And I'm curious about what you think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, they say to change mind frame, you must change physiology first, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
So there's tons of ways, just like as you take a drink of your water, this is one of the simpler ways to change physiology.
Yes.
Sometimes when we're in a space where we can get up and move, whether that be we're nursing a child, or we're in a car, or there's lots of times where we don't actually have the ability to get up and go or get up and move. And so yes, changing physiology can just be as simple as taking a drink of water. It can be getting up and just moving to another room. It can be all kinds of things. So that's always the first step, right? Is changing physiology first, because when the body's stuck, the mind is stuck.
Yes.
They
Yes,
work
absolutely.
together.
Yes.
So this is why a lot of people use fitness to manage their stress,
Hmm. Yes.
because they literally work out any frustration or tension through the physical movement and change in physiology.
Absolutely. And you've hit on one of those medium and long-term strategies to help manage that fight, flight, or freeze, all the F words, right? Is the long-term benefits of movement on the body. Right? It all
Mhm.
and it functions to also have long-term impacts on our brain and our capacity, builds our capacity to even be able to recognize that we're stressed. Right? It's an incredible opportunity. Yeah.
Yeah, and there's sometimes people get so good at numbing themselves out to the frustration and the
Mm,
stress that it's
yeah.
also sometimes about, giving yourself permission to be human, giving yourself permission to be in it and go through it, instead of packing a bunch of stuff on top of it and shoving it down.
Yeah, yes, yes, yeah, but and honoring that you're having the feeling to begin with.
Yes.
One of the strategies that I teach is RAIN, the recognize, allow, investigate, and nurture, which in combination with heart practice, even just recognizing that we're having an emotion and allowing it to be there without doing anything to change it. Just meaning, I mean, other than, of course, getting up and moving, but that I am angry or that anger is here and it belongs,
Mhm.
is a radical difference and shift, because as we um, as we deny our feelings and we shove them down, um, when we experience them twice as much the next time.
Isn't that
So if you
interesting?
can Yep. If you can imagine a lifetime of saying, I'm not really angry, or being told you're not angry from childhood, right? Don't have emotions, don't be angry. And then you have outbursts with a child, or your child has an outburst and you feel angry right away. The instinct is to shove it down. Well, what does that do, right, to our bodies? And yet it takes us 90 seconds to work through an emotion
Mhm.
if we allow it to come to the forefront and we take good care of it. I think, what does Thich Nhat Hanh say? He says, yeah, taking good care of my emotions, right? Taking care of the fact that, yes, anger is here. It doesn't need to be judged or changed. We just need to acknowledge that it's there.
Mhm. There's
Yeah.
this doctor from Kingston, Ontario. His name is Dr. Edgar Barnett. He's passed away now, but
Oh,
his
okay.
life's work is he created this idea that um, when people don't have permission to experience certain emotions as a child, he
Mm,
uses strange language like crimes and things like that. So he calls it the crime of emotion. So we
mm,
grow up in a way that makes it feel like it's a crime to have emotion, and then we don't feel permission to be angry or permission to be sad because when we were young, we weren't given that permission and we punished ourselves. He also has the crime of existence, which is, when kids grow up with the idea that their parents are overwhelmed and their existence is part of the problem, then they grow up to become adults that operate through the world always trying to help and give and do and please all the time because they think they need to in order to be worthy of the love and respect that they just deserve. Okay, so he talks about the crime of anger or crime of emotion, crime of existence, and there's a couple other ones in there. But it's
mm.
it's interesting, how we look at this, how it transfers from childhood and giving our children permission to have the whole experience of all the emotions, and
Yes.
had parents to have great tools for themselves so that when their child's going through something, they can manage it without the child feeling like, oh, I'm making my parents' life worse or harder,
Hmm.
because it
That
has,
is,
yeah, it has
yes.
long-term effects. And we talk about a little bit in the book about the patterns that we grow up with, and so the parents can start to see this, because what truly inspired me to create this, Sheena,
Mm,
is the fact that I've seen a lot of clients in my clinic, and I would like to prevent some of the patterns that are getting in the way for adults through teaching parents and really going to the root of where it all starts. And I feel
mm.
like, I know this sounds like maybe silly or whatever, but if I can help some people never need therapy later on in life, my job is done.
Yes. 100%. I often say that's my job, is working myself out of a job.
Yes. I'm glad I'm not alone.
Yep, 100%.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yep. Which
I've
is
got
why
to.
I loved, yep, public health in nursing. If I can prevent you from ever getting into the hospital or help you prevent yourself from ever getting there, that is the single best thing I could have done. So truly working myself out of a job would be wonderful, is a good experience. Yep.
Yeah, proactive rather than reactive, right?
Absolutely. Yep,
Mhm. I was
absolutely.
going to show you, I've got a little pillow here in the background, and it says, it's okay
Oh,
to have
yeah.
all the emotions. And it's got, the anger and the sad and the happy. And, it's like,
That's
it's
amazing.
good to show people that you have permission to have all the emotions. And especially as a parent, wow, the range of emotions is something else, right? You get to have them
Yes.
all.
Yes. Yeah. I think that being a parent is probably, um, well, it's the longest meditation of my life. It's, it's
Yeah.
been a very, yeah, longest meditation, but also it pushed me in ways that I never imagined. And I don't think we could ever ethically recreate for people to, warn them or tell them that it's coming, because it's so individual. But yes,
And so
absolutely.
worth it. So worth it.
100%.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Do you mind sharing a little bit with the listeners about your child and what your life is like as a parent?
Oh, sure, sure. So I have two boys, both of whom are neurodivergent, with anxiety and a couple of learning disabilities thrown in the heap. Both my wife and I are both neurodivergent, so we have all four of us have ADHD, which none of us knew either when we got married or started having our children.
Fair
And yeah, so it was a real walking that understanding of what it meant to have a neurodivergent ADHD or child with our first was an incredible experience in humility.
enough.
And my wife is a physician, a GP, a family doc, and worked with children her whole career. And I've worked with kids my whole career. And so but we were incredibly ignorant of what it meant to have ADHD.
Mm-hmm.
And so learning about that and about the emotional reactivity, and learning about the masking and what that does to a child in school. And when you come home, how you just let it all go.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And how parents are on the receiving end of the safety, which sometimes that doesn't mean that their behaviors are always awesome because they've been holding it all together to be good at school.
Yeah,
And
that's
yeah,
true for all children, I think, to some
oh,
degree.
absolutely, absolutely. So we had to really get over ourselves really quickly about our judgments around what it meant to have ADHD and what it meant to be dyslexic. And then at the same time, because I'm the birth mom, I had to get really clear about my history, my childhood history, and the things that they were saying about my son. He doesn't work to his full potential, and he's too busy, and he's too smiley, and he's too talkative, and all the things I heard about myself, and trying to do that simultaneously while holding space for my son to explore what it meant for him was a huge challenge for us in our house. And even when our second son, when we realized that likely he was neurodivergent as well, even though we had had 4 extra years experience before we had him, it was still really difficult. And it wasn't until their teenage years, like older teenage years, where we finally felt like we'd not cracked the code, but at least figured out how to best support them in their needs. It took a long time to learn and to accept that we didn't know everything,
And
even as a nurse and a doctor.
absolutely, none of us
Yeah,
have it all figured out. No,
no,
no, no, no.
no,
And
no.
so I think there's a lot of parents that are in a very similar situation as you, as ADHD diagnosis become more prevalent, more common, and more
Yeah,
accepted. Um,
yes.
and so, can you speak a little bit of advice to some of those parents that might be in a similar situation?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, my first piece of advice would be get a really good therapist who understands, and
Sheena Howard, everyone.
yeah, or one of my or at acceptance, but no, but truly, or somebody who has been through it, because there are times when your children will have reactions that you don't want to talk about because they might be something that seem off the grid to neurotypical kids reactions, for
So
example.
that
um,
judgment.
yeah, the judgment and what's happening. So it would be to find a supportive person, and the other piece would be to stay open to all possibilities for support, and that includes medication. And that I have worked with parents and who one was really supportive and interested in trying medication and one wasn't. And so it's just staying present in that discussion, and also talking to your children about how their brain works.
Mm, yes.
And giving them the words for what's happening in their bodies. So looks like you're feeling frustrated. This looks like you're feeling angry. Not attaching outcome to like praising the process, not the outcome,
Mm,
right? Like that's the result of a lot of hard work. You worked really hard to do this, etc. But teaching them about what it means to have whatever diagnosis they have, and where they're meeting them where their skill set is at. Um,
amazing. Yeah.
I have to tell you that I have combined type ADHD, so I'm both hyperactive and inattentive, which is awesome in many ways. But what it means is that playing with my children was the hardest thing I've ever done in my life. And
Hmm.
I am a joyful, I love kids.
Yeah, you're a playful person.
I am a playful person, but sitting in the sandbox and playing, poke my eye out with a fork, man. I did not, it was so hard to concentrate on that and the judgments that you have on yourself as a parent.
Mhm.
Um, and subsequently, I've met other parents that have felt that, and finding ways to engage with your kids that don't also make you want to poke your eye out.
Mhm.
If they're neurodivergent, I have one friend whose child is really into like war and all the knows everything there is to know about war and World War I and II, and she just doesn't really care anymore. She's not interested.
Right.
So trying to find the places about, what did the women wear? Right? Or like trying to find the places where you can engage. Otherwise, you feel like you're isolated from your own children. And
Mhm.
that can be really hard.
Mhm.
Um,
So,
and yeah, sorry, humor was the last part. Was that yeah, humor
yeah,
is cures a lot of, or can at least promote or jump over. It can, I don't know, how do I want to put this, Rebecca? It's like humor jumps over or it cancels out uh, the potential for discord. Or do you know what I mean? That
yeah.
it's disarming. So laughing with your kids can be really, really helpful.
I put a whole chapter in my book around humor and parenting.
Excellent. Oh my gosh. Yes. I can't.
Absolutely. It is a
Yeah.
superpower.
100%.
And
Yes.
humor with yourself and laughing a little bit about the situation instead of the judgment, right? Because we can replace the
Yes.
judgment with ha 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 ha. No
Yes.
big deal. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. I used to look for ways to also make mistakes and have my children watch me make mistakes because kids, kids with, I, kids with ADHD, think, is it ADHD? By the time they're 12, hear something crazy, like 40,000 times more negative comments than their neurotypical peers,
Isn't that interesting?
which means that I did, which means that both my children have, but they're prone to believing that they didn't want to start anything unless if they because they were just going to screw it up.
Mm,
So I looked for opportunities to demonstrate how I made mistakes during the day, talk about my
fantastic.
mistakes at the dinner table. Um, you know, we as we got older, the mistakes we talked about got more developmentally appropriate.
Yeah, I I
yeah,
call it modeling being human.
yeah, 100%, 100%.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah,
And
and
to go back just a little bit in what you were saying, there's also a chapter in the book about teaching empathy, right? So
mhm,
for all children, it starts at a very, very young age for them to
yes,
be able to correlate and put a name to the feeling. And so
yes,
it's so much easier to do this ahead of time through storytelling and putting the emotion to character rather than having to learn how to do it in the middle of the frustration when their amygdala is the fire.
yes. Yeah, absolutely.
Right. So in the
Mhm.
book, I'm using just simple emojis, even though kids, I would love to use real faces because kids really do take in facial more so than language, especially at a younger age. So
Absolutely.
they're reading these cues, and a lot of times it can be confusing, or we're just assuming that they understand what's happening. And so we're teaching, when I was in my first student placement, it was in a kindergarten class, and I was challenged to teach 30 kids in kindergarten empathy. And it was so
Wow.
much fun. I got out this puppet and we would have circle time and we would have scenarios of things that would happen and the kids in the puppet would have little conversations about how did that feel and what do you think this person,
Yes.
right? And so it's about having the conversation but having it in a really neutral space and a lot of times through somebody else's experience so that it doesn't feel personal or targeted. So,
Yes.
so
Yes.
having, and what you were saying is being able to label the emotion and then being okay with having the emotion.
Yes, absolutely. And I'll tell you, one of the things that I'm the most proud of was teaching my boys what embarrassment felt like.
Mhm.
I feel as though um, as a mom to two boys and as a feminist and a lesbian woman and all of the things, I feel a huge responsibility to raise boys who are empathetic, compassionate, and kind and understanding and all of the things, right? Don't take up too much space, share space or whatever. And the quickest way, of course, is empathy for sure. And it's also teaching our boys about what embarrassment feels like, so that they can understand that they don't have to that it's okay to feel embarrassed. I've worked with so many men and young men where anger is what comes out of the embarrassment or the shame.
Mhm.
And to this like I am always so thrilled when even last week our youngest said something about how he was angry and he's like, I just feel really embarrassed. Okay, I made that mistake. And I was like, yes. Right. And it has stood us in good stead, and certainly sharing that with other parents in my practice with boys, I mean, and girls as well for sure, but you
Mhm.
know we often there's a lot of anger that comes from feeling that embarrassment and shame, whereas acknowledging it does help move through faster.
Absolutely. And also,
Yeah.
sometimes parents can feel embarrassment or shame based on their kids' behavior, right? Which is
Mm,
not useful either.
yes, that
And
is right.
yeah,
Yeah.
and my son, he is a unique boy. He's all the things that you described, but he does not he embarrassment doesn't register for him the same as it does register for other kids. I remember him in grade 8, and it was winter here in Canada, lots of snow, and he's standing outside in his snow pants, and the kids are making fun of him for being outside in his snow pants in grade 8. And he's looking at them going, well, you're the one freezing. Why should I feel bad? Like, you just told me you're freezing and I'm nice and warm. Right? And so,
What's wrong with you? What a gift.
right. And so now he's
Yep.
actually a performer, and I've seen him perform, and it amazes me to that I can see him just show up on the stage and just give her, like, I'm blown away with the lack of embarrassment that this
Wow.
boy has, and it's always been that way for him. And it's like the
Mm.
other end of the spectrum where it just doesn't exist. So there's been times where maybe someone else might be embarrassed because he's showing up with snow pants when no one else is wearing snow pants, right?
Right.
And
Yes.
so to let go of the judgment, I think, is the real bottom line
Yeah.
between all of this, right? It's the
Yes.
foundation is, and we talk a little bit about in NLP, they say that we have, this might sound funny to you because you've heard so many different things, but they say that we have 5 personalities, or 5 things that we're trying to prove in life. Okay,
Mm.
and one of them is rules and regulations. One's security minded, one's freedom minded, one's self expressive, and one's competency. So the
Mm.
idea is that we're supposed to be flexible and fluid, that we have access to all of these. But when we get stuck in one of them, that some areas of our life are great and some areas of our life are not great.
Mm. Mhm.
This rules and regulations, unfortunately, is the way that we, you and I at least, have been raised from our generation of people.
Yes.
There was a lot of right and wrong, good or bad, black or white thinking. And so schools, institutions, all these places push us in to thinking that this is the one way that we're supposed to operate. And
Mhm.
from this rules and regulations, there also comes this sense of belonging. There's a need for belonging. And
Mm.
so people move through life with all of this judgment, looking for a place to belong. And it's very hard to find that place to belong when there's so many different rules around what is right and wrong. So a lot of times what we're teaching is just flexibility and fluidity and saying, okay, well, rules and regulations isn't everything.
Mhm.
Sometimes we want to be
Yes.
freedom minded and we just want to, have an outcome and chase that outcome no matter what. Just go get it,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
And
Yes.
and so we have to look, and in the first part of the book and the journals that I'm creating is really about creating the outcome, because without the
Mhm.
outcome we don't actually know what's most useful. We need to be able to say, this is what I want for my family in the future. This is the kind of person, like you already knew, the kind of boys that you wanted to raise, and you had an outcome and an idea. So it was
Yes.
easier for you to choose what was useful to move you in that direction. Because if
Yes.
we don't know what we want for ourselves or our kids, then we're just kind of going all over the place. And a
I
lot of,
agree with you. Yeah, I
yeah,
totally agree.
and a lot of times stuck in rules and regulations because it's how we've been trained over many, many years. So,
Yes, I am so glad you brought that up, and I love that part of your book. And so I'm excited. I mean, I there's so many things I can share around that. One of the around the flexibility piece for our children, we elected to have them not do homework until grade 8. And we drew on science. We drew on studies from other countries, really good quality studies with a lot of outcomes for children that were what they demonstrated was that homework and the fight in the home about homework actually ruined and got in between the parental and family harmony and drove a wedge between the parents and the children. And given what was happening with our children, we didn't want that. We wanted, like, after school, after they came home, they needed more connection, not less. And they needed us to be, their champions at home. And the flack and the intensity got, it was really intense. But had we not and been able to engage in what is it that we want to, how do we want to raise our children, and now that we have these new pieces, being flexible about how we were going to raise them was important. But then also looking at what uh, how we were going to let in outside influences come into our home. Right, we
mhm.
had to be flexible about that. We demanded they go to school. That wasn't a choice. They had to go to school. All of the things, but homework off the table.
Good
Yeah.
for you. Yeah. And you know
It
what?
was not easy, but it was definitely a flexible in my family too. Not everybody agreed.
Hey, well, you know what? You're not parenting for everyone else. You're
That is
parent,
true.
you're right, and that's an important
Yes.
thing for parents to know, is that you're parenting for your future and your family's future and your children's future, not
Yes.
someone else's future.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
a huge part of the book is really this idea that all of us are learning ourselves all over again as we start to parent our children, that we're
Yes.
all learning ourselves, learning what to let go of, learning what to keep, learning how to adjust, and so whether we are taking all of these ideas from our parents and recreating them,
Hmm.
or are we deciding that we can move forward healed, leaving behind the scars, leaving behind the unuseful things, and deciding what's moving forward, right?
Yes.
So,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Parenting is such a big trigger for people. And I'm so glad to hear you say that, right? Deciding what you can let go of and leave behind, and take what you need and leave the rest, or take what you want and leave the rest. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. So, is there any other wonderful parting wisdom that you can give to our listeners today?
Read your book.
Yes.
and that parenting is at once a great joy and at once a great frustration. And if you are able to have people in your corner that can support you in both times, they're the people to hold on to, because it's important to have at least one person you can be deeply honest with about everything, the joys, the sorrows, the hearts, the fact that sometimes maybe we don't even really like our children sometimes, and that so getting a good support system around you.
Amazing. Amazing.
Yeah.
And how can our listeners find you, Sheena?
Ooh, you
Or
can
Acceptance Clinic?
absolutely. Well, if you're a social media human, you're welcome to find us on Instagram at acceptance.clinic, or Sheena LG Howard, just that's for me, or at acceptanceclinic.ca. You can find us there too.
Amazing. Well, thank you so, so much for joining me today. And
Thank you for
again,
having me.
it's been such an honor, and I know that our conversations are going to resonate with parents. So I'm very grateful for your time.
Oh, thank you so much. I can't wait to the next time.
Thanks for tuning in to our Suggestive Parenting community. You can visit the website at suggestiveparenting.com for more tools and resources.